30 seconds. 30 seconds.
The Baton Rouge area chamber is advocating for additional cuts to the size of the central office. Do you support this effort? And if so, what kind of cuts would you seek to make to the central office?
Again, let's go with the micromanagement of a superintendent. You know, a superintendent, when he comes in, he has to be able to hire whatever staff he needs to get his job done. And I think that we're taking the power from the superintendent, and then we're deciding on how many staff members is actually needed at the board level to efficiently.
$1 million out of the budget of the central staff. These were legitimate cuts. This goes hand in hand with the proposal to give more autonomy to the principals. And you can't expect our principals who do not have the skill set to do things like payroll and HR and transportation and other things. You've got to have a central staff to perform these common functions throughout the district. And of course, that's what the purpose of the central staff. The main purpose is the instructional area and the supervision of the students.
I agree with what Ms. Andrews said, that the superintendent is the person to make those kinds of decisions and recommend those types of cuts and those type of personnel changes to the board. It is micromanaging if the board goes to the superintendent and says these positions are not necessary. However, those kinds of decisions can be made in the budgetary process because the budget is the most important piece of policy that we pass every year. If we are unable to fund positions or unable to fund every position, then that would be where it would be done.
Right, Jocelyn, 1 minute response to you.
What is your position regarding charter schools coming into the district by way of approval as type 1 or type 3 that would be done at your hand, or those that could come in as type 2 approved by the state? What are your thoughts as to how the parish can sustain quality schools while competing with innovative and well-funded charter schools?
This will start with Jill.
I believe I ran through a list of charters that I voted for since I've been on the board. I can remember the mentorship academies, Inspire, Thrive, the new one on Burbank, also the Career Academy. These charters were well organized and had participants in the community on their board, and they fit a need of the district. Our superintendent vetted these very well with his staff and made recommendations to the board, and it was in the best interest of children to charter these schools. The other type 2 charters that we turned down go over to the state and they become type 2 charters, and they're approved by the Bessie board, which I don't know what their standards are, but they seem to be the ones that fail and turn in their charter.
I think that when a school district is performing well, such as ours, we are a city school district, that we should be the sole provider of charterer of charters. And so when a school district is performing poorly, that is a D or an F school district, that then they should have the leeway to go to Bessie and receive charters through Bessie. I do prefer type 3s over type 1s because we have more financial advantage in the way that we structure, and we have more oversight with the charter.
Okay, I don't know if anybody else looked at the charter school scores, but I'm not impressed. So I want to make this known that East Baton Rouge is on a rise. We're increasing academically. And so what these charter schools are doing is they're promising our kids that they're going to give them a better quality education. When we have teachers right here in the public school system who are willing and able to give them that same education or better. So what I am saying is that as you're thinking about charters and you're considering charters for EBR, give EBR a chance to continue to improve without putting charters and taking more money from the EBR public school systems, whereas we can't even help our kids who are left in our school system.
And now at this point, our program, we would have had candidate on candidate questions. So So in lieu of the opponents being here, I think that we ought to allow the candidates to tell us if we can ask you a question within 30 seconds. So Connie, what question would you have asked within this? And no, you don't get to rebut it, you just forget it.
My opponent has run a very negative campaign, and I would have asked him what good things are going on in the district. I would have asked him to name the schools and to name the schools he's visited and the schools he's volunteered in.
I would ask my opponent, why is it that you want to serve on a board where you're not willing to send your own kids to the public schools? I am an invested parent. I trust the public school system with my child, with all 3 of my kids. Why is it that you want to serve on the school board, but you're not willing to send your own kid to the school system?
Come on, man.
Come on.
Hello. Sharon, what would you have asked?
I would ask my opponent why the previous board had voted to renew our program manager's contract with the proviso that the last year of the contract would have been an evaluation year, and we would have sought bids for the new contract. But yet, the board chose to not go out for bids for the program manager, instead authorized our superintendent to renegotiate the contract and remove the requirement to bring the contract back to the board. I'd like to know why she voted for that.
Thank you. Now we'll start back to Billy, and Billy, we're back to a rapid fire round, 15 seconds.
Short answer. Here's a simple question that probably some veteran members know, but maybe have different views. Who is your direct report, or who are your direct report? Take either position.
And that would start, okay, yes.
I report directly to the voters in my district, and that's been made very, very clear in my election.
Being not on the board, I will report directly to the voters in my district as well.
Your constituents always are at the top of the list. You better keep them in mind about everything. And when you vote, you better know that your constituents are with you, and you better vote for their wishes.
Mike, 1 minute responses to your question, and the person will go to Jim.
What are the 3 major issues you feel are facing the school system?
All right, our first one, of course, is teacher retention. That's our first one. Our second one is discipline in EBR. We have to do something about the discipline problems. And our third one is the overall morale over the entire school district. That's our 3 issues that we're basically facing.
I don't have a problem with either 3 of those issues. The main thing that I need you to understand is that we're losing teachers every day because of our morale in the district. What's a double whammy is that if you go to the School of Education at LSU and Southern, you will find that there's not many people going into the education fields. And it becomes so much more difficult for not just EBR, but every organization to find quality teachers to teach children. There's just no demand for that skill set. The children aren't going to college for that purpose. So that's a very important consideration. We also have to deal with discipline in our schools. We hear all the time that people think that our schools are not safe. So we have to go over and above to show that they are, and we have to have a discipline that helps the teachers, because I believe that's part of the reason why our morale is low and why a lot of teachers are leaving.
I agree with both of the other folks on the panel that teacher recruitment and retention is one of the most critical problems in the district. Student safety and discipline is another one, both for the teachers and the other students. Also, recruitment of children who do not currently attend public schools is a very, very critical issue for us. There's so many problems that can be solved with that one simple thing. But I think that one of the biggest challenges that we as local policymakers and you as our constituents face is control of education, because 85% of the policy comes from the federal government, another 10 or 12% from the state, and there's so little that we actually have discretion over. Yet we are the ones who are held accountable every 4 years at the polls. We are out here doing our very best to set policy that is as local in nature as possible. Thank you.
Jan, 30-second question.
All right, I want to declare up front that I have a conflict of interest in this question as a husband of an EBR teacher, but one way to boost morale in the workforce would be to pay teachers a little bit more. Do you support that? And if so, where would you get the money?
Jerry?
Once again, we have done a fairly good job of trying to get our teachers back on the correct salary schedule. We had a freeze for several years when the budget was tight. We just unfroze our teachers' salaries, and the legislature was kind in adding money, and we gave those to the teachers.
When making any salary changes and any considerations for increases, decreases, or setting salary schedules, I think it's important to compare the market around you. So what we need to look at is what the surrounding districts are paying, and we need to be at least as competitive, if not more competitive, in this district with those surrounding parishes.
I believe every teacher deserves a raise every year. And there is no excuse as to why they cannot get a raise every year. We are up late at night. We basically just don't even know our own families because we're so focused on making sure our instruction and our assignments and our lessons are prepared every day. So there is no excuse why a teacher should not get a raise every year. Make it happen.
Here, Cornell.
Would you please give us a question to which the candidates will respond with 1 minute answer, starting with comment?
What are your thoughts as it relates to the achievement zone and its impact on the landscape of East Baton Rouge Parish?
I'm encouraged that the Achievement Zone was established because they established a nonprofit organization to go along with it, which is recruiting and bringing in funds. And I would like for us to work closely and collaborate with them so that we might also benefit. Our students and families who live in that area can benefit from a shared resource with those organizations.
Okay, we created an achievement zone for a purpose, and I think that we need to implement more resources into that zone. You know, we already know what the kids' needs are. It was created for a reason. And so we really need to go back and revisit that achievement zone and implement more resources for those parents and for those students as well.
I'm all in favor of supporting the achievement zone concept, and it also helps with the children in that area to get needed resources. So I'm all in favor of it, and I would vote to put the resources with the achievement zone.
Okay. Billy, how about a question that requires 1 minute? And you direct that to the gentleman.
The perpetual problem in virtually all school districts that have some academic achievement deficiencies is parental involvement. What I'd like each of you to respond to is, what is your strategy, what are your thoughts to get more parents involved in supporting the school district and their kids?
Okay, there are several ways that parents are involved in their child's education. You know, just because parents don't show up at PTO meetings or you don't see a parent all the time, it does not mean that parent is not involved in that child's education. There are so many different things that go on in parents' lives that you have to understand it. It's not that parents don't care, it's not that parents don't want to work with you, but you got to understand we have a lot of single parents working 2 and 3 jobs, you know, and they're really trying. So just because they cannot show up at that time does not mean that they're not concerned. What I want you to do is be more flexible and open up that door to that parent and take time to understand that parent's needs. Get to know that parent. Every situation is different. Every parent is different. Every child is different. There is no one size fit all. Just because I could not make it to that meeting, please don't hold that against me. Please don't hold it against my child. I still love my child. As parents, we love our children. We're here for you. We're going to work with you.
First of all, I have to give our superintendent a lot of credit because he believes in forums. He believes in parent participation. And we do hold them on a regular basis. Whenever we do a name change at a school or some change in the attendance zone or some change in a program or else a new program, we always trying to get the parents involved at every step of the way. One thing that we did that was significant is we have a lot of mobility in East Baton Rouge Parish. And we have children that move 2 and 3 times during the school year through no fault of their own, but their parents or parent has to move. So we've clustered 3 high schools, Bel Air, Terra, and Broadmoor, and a child that starts school there can finish the year at the school he starts, and we provide transportation for that child.
Again, I'm going to come back to something that I think the district is doing a tremendous job with. Our school building level administrators, our principals, and those other faculty at the schools are working very hard, and they provide. Last night I attended literacy night at Wildwood Elementary. It's a predominantly traditional elementary school with a small gifted component, and the folks from that school are all zoned for that area. And it was terrific to see, and Ms. Freiberg also attended, it was terrific to see the level of community support and involvement that those parents brought. They came in and they brought in canned goods for the food bank, and they participated in all of these activities. I've also noticed as a parent that many of our schools' PTOs and our faculty are participating in Facebook groups. So not every parent can be at the school all the time, but almost everyone has a smartphone or has access to the internet, and they are participating through those devices.
Mike, your question will allow for 1-minute answers. Your question is Jerry.
Legislature passed a bill that allows for school choice to where a child attending a DRF school can attend any school in Louisiana that's C or above. What would you do to help the legislative process to overturn this?
Run for the legislature? Well, that's true, and all you can do is call your legislators and point out the deficiency with this policy and ask them to change it. And of course, you can go appear at committee hearings and testify and try to get other people involved in the lobbying process to get a bill to change that.
Back to what I said a few minutes ago, that 85% of the policy comes from the federal level. This is actually policy out of No Child Left Behind and Race to the Top, which follows down to the state. So the state is only rubber stamping, if you will, what the federal government already requires when they send the state of Louisiana 15% of the funding that we generate here for student revenues. So I think that change needs to come from the top. It needs to come from the Senate and the Congress. And then we need to have some more authority and some more leeway locally to do what we need to do, what's most effective in our community for our students, because no one understands our students the way we do.
All right, when we talk about overturning policy, the main thing we need to do is we need to be more focused and involved when it comes down to election time. These are people that we elected into office, who went in return and made these decisions for us. And it's not about the people who actually is making the decisions, about these people getting into office and they do whatever they want to do. So if you want to make change, what I encourage everybody to do is research the candidates. Understand the candidate and then vote the correct way, and you won't have that problem.
John, you get to ask a rapid fire yes/no question. Okay?
What about that? Would you be willing to support a tax increase if it meant more money for schools?
Johnny?
I support tax renewals every year.
Of course.
I would if it was for pre-K.
Okay. Now we come to that interesting point again where we're missing the other side of the panel. So Candidates, if your opponent was here, what is the second question that you want to ask? No, you still don't get a rebuttal.
Okay, so my second question to him would be, when we're talking about making decisions for the children of East Baton Rouge Parish, are you making these decisions based on your constituents? Or are you making these decisions based on those who may be pulling strings for you?
I was going to ask why my opponent voted to reapportion the school board and reduce from 11 to 9 members, knowing full well that it would have taken the voice from a lot of people that would convert the races from a shoe leather race to a media race.
You get to choose the question. The question is, what if your opponent was here, what would you ask in the second question?
And I said this previously, that I would have asked about the negative campaign. What I would have asked is, how are the residents of Baton Rouge and District 8 to trust you when you spread lies about another candidate?
Okay. Now,
You ain't here.
now, as number 4, did you ask a question that requires a 1-minute answer?
Can you share your thoughts as it relates to the approval or disapproval of the possibility of the St. George School District and its impact that it would have on PPR?
That would start with you, Donnie.
I'm happy to answer that question because I live in that area. I'm outside the city limits. My approach to this entire question is that in District 8, currently between Bluebonnet, I-10, and the Parish line, there's not one single public school. In District 8, we have the highest participation in private and parochial schools in the city. So fully 92% of our students are in private and parochial schools, while 8% are in public schools. I think this is a very important and critical factor in the St. George thing.
Are you for it or not?
I also live in what would be the St. George pullout district as well. And I am very concerned as this will affect my child who's currently in the EBR public school system. So what I am proposing is that there are schools available that people in my area, which is the St. George area, can attend that they choose not to attend. So I think that we are better together.
Yeah, I have looked at the St. George pullout in terms of our district and what would be left in the event that they pull out. And it looks like we would have an inner city black district, which would really hurt black children in East Baton Rouge Parish. And because of that reason, I think that it's irregardless how many schools they have down there, it's the money that they take away from our district.
Okay, now we'll start back with Billy. Okay. Start back with Billy. Billy, question requiring 1 minute response.
1 minute, okay. School board members have to learn an awful lot of information to serve their constituency and kids well. My question to you would be, would you identify where you feel there may be a deficiency, and what would it be, and how do you plan to overcome that in the coming term if you're elected?
What kind of
Deficiency.
About knowledge about being able to carry out your job well. I'm not saying you have deficiencies, I'm just giving the supposition.
Can I clarify the question? Are you talking about me personally or school board members in general as a whole?
No, each of you individually, I guess what area would you consider yourself in need of learning more about to serve better?
Probably federal education policy, because my strength is perhaps budgets and revenues.
My area would be budget and revenues because I'm good with the education part.
Well, first of all, I want to say that the Louisiana School Board Association and the National School Board Association do a great job of providing enough information, seminars, and programs to help school board members get their education requirements. But you know, I'd certainly like to know a lot more about the federal requirements since they flow down to every school district in the country.
Mike, 1 minute responses. Starting with them.
The current landscape involves a lot of social media. How can your school system use social media to help send out more positive messages?
Okay, I believe that when positive things are happening in schools every day, but we tend to focus on the negative so much. You can't tell me every day you go to school that just negative things happen. So everything a positive thing, time something is happening, tweet it, Facebook it, Instagram it, do whatever you need to do to get it out to the media, to the community, let them know that positive things are happening in EBR.
Well, we have a public information officer, for lack of his official title, who is taking the lead, put out information about the district, and he does a pretty good job of getting stories out to the media and pointing out some of the activities of our district. Kind of just referred to one of their schools, how they use the Facebook and other social media to get information about the school. I think that'd be a good project for each principal in our district to go through a seminar to show how she can put positive items on Facebook for her students and staff and also faculty.
We have a wealth of talent in Baton Rouge, even in this room, public relations professionals, but it's something that we all share and we can all do together. That we see our teachers, we see our students, we see our parents making positive news and promoting positive news through Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and all of those other social medias. And I like to provide professional development opportunities, even if it's only a small component, every time this district does professional development. So we support our teachers, we support our administrators and our parents.
John, your question was a 1 minute response.
There's a movement afoot to give principals a lot more control over individual school budgets. Do you support this model? And what should be the role of the school board if principals overspend their budget?
Jerry?
Well, we had a little brief view of this process with the last budget process. The superintendent gave each principal a certain amount of money, and the only negative I remember was one school had to cut out an arts teacher, and the principals ended up taking the heat on this, and I believe he came back to the superintendent, and the superintendent allowed him some additional funds so he could hire that teacher back. But other than that, the principals did very well with their assigned duties in that term. If a principal went over it, you know, they'd be subject to discipline, termination.
The principals overwhelmingly went to the legislature last year and asked not to have that level of responsibility. They do not want it. What we did do at the district level is we gave them fillable spreadsheets. I'm sure you all know how to use Excel here, and they had to put in their number of students, the number of teachers, and they did have to make some sacrifices, and it was difficult for some schools to make those sacrifices. And the superintendent had the authority and the oversight to go back and make adjustments where he needed to under special circumstances. For example, where there was a school that had a different model that was a little more costly, and it is a program that the school district provides for, he had the authority because we give that authority to our superintendent.
As a former administrator, I can tell you that we have so many things that we have to do on a day-to-day basis. The workload is just astronomical. And so what you're going to do is you're going to take away time that we can be in the classroom, observing our teachers, working with our teachers, creating professional development for our teachers, working with parents, working with students, you're going to take all that time away. You know, you have to, if you're going to say, okay, we want you to control your own budget, what kind of training are you going to give us to actually do this? You just can't say, hey, here go $1,000, here go $100,000. We want you to run your school with it without any training. And there's just so many things that a principal have to go through every day. So we're just adding more tasks to principals, and we're draining our principals, and we cannot focus on the instruction that we need to be focusing on.
Now it's,
There's a growing concern in the community regarding the special needs students that are in public schools. Can you speak to how you feel the board should be targeting and helping with the initiative of that student achievement for all is truly the case?
Again, this comes from federal policy, and you're probably referring to IDEA and 504 laws, which require that we provide an IEP for students or a 504 plan. It is the district's policy to...
most of the people in the audience do not have a clue what alphabet soup you just laid out. So would you please fill it out for the average citizen who's going to
It's just getting there. The Federal Rehab Act of, is it 1974, which provides for a 504 plan for special needs children to have accommodations. And this district has always done a fantastic job of providing for special needs at both the lower end and the higher end, because all children do learn differently. In fact, in education programs, I'm sure Mr. Washington can confirm this, and Mrs. Frybeck as well, that we teach teachers at the university level to differentiate their instruction in the classroom. Ms. Andrews probably is in a better position to speak to that. But I know this as a parent because I do have a child who has an IEP, and I have sat through evaluations for my own biological children and my foster children as well, so I'm fairly familiar with the process. And it's our job as board members to support our administration and to support our faculty whose job it is to administer those programs.
All right, we talk about special education. Again, I was SBLC's at school building level chairperson, and I also oversaw the 504 area as well. So I work with parents who came in, you know, and we want to meet with our kids, because what we want to do is we want to identify what are our kids' needs. We want to make sure that our kids' needs are actually being met so that they can be taught. So what we need to look at is hiring more special education teachers. Hiring more teachers who can actually teach other teachers how to differentiate instruction, how to actually give these kids their accommodations. So we need to make sure that we're going to see the special education expanding more. We're going to have more kids enter into special education. We just got to prepare for that and make sure we have the staff and the resources ready to make sure those kids' needs are met.
I have to agree with Connie that East Baton Rouge Parish does a great job with special education students. And a simple little question to you will maybe bring that out. How many special ed children do you think are in charter school? 0. I think that would probably be a correct answer, 0. And you've had charter schools tell parents when they attempt to enroll a special ed child in a charter school, or even a private parochial school for that matter, they'll tell them, go to East Baton Rouge Parish because your child's going to get a better education in East Baton Rouge Parish than we can afford your child. So that is a great compliment that we get every day from private, parochial, and charter school.
now, I was going to say this. It's now time for one of those candidate-on-candidate questions, but we have empty chairs because people did not show up. But I want to stress to the viewing audience and to everybody in the room that these candidates who chose not to show up are given equal opportunity to come. We're just making sure that you have equal opportunity to hear from your candidates. You know, it's regrettable, but we'll start again, and it starts with Jennifer. Jennifer, if your opponent were here, what would your final and last question to them be?
Okay, so I have to pretend. Okay, so my question to my candidate would be, if you truly care about the students, the parents, and the community of East Baton Rouge Parish, why don't you do the right thing by those individuals?
If my opponent were here, I would have asked about our last superintendent search. He got to be pretty contentious, and one of our seriously difficult problems was to make the current administrator of our district a finalist. And I'd asked why and what reasons why she couldn't vote for that individual to be a finalist.
If my opponent were here, I would ask him what in his background and experience qualifies him to be a school board member, and what in his background and experience qualifies him to represent District 8.
Thank you. We'll have one last round of 30-second answers, starting with Billy.
Okay. Someone mentioned earlier that a big issue is morale of employees within the school district. What is your idea of a method that you feel, if implemented from the board level, would enhance the morale of all employees, from administrative people down to the lowest level of employee you have?
How about a pay raise? That'd be the simple answer, is give her a pay raise. But of course, whenever you look at giving increases in salaries, it comes with a great expense. And especially since East Baton Rouge Parish, I believe that about 80% of our budget goes to salaries and benefits for our employees. So it's not a simple answer. Whenever we look at trying to give a pay raise to our district, we do look at what it costs us to budget, and it's a recurring expense. It's not one that's a one-time expense.
Personally, as a manager, I value the input of those people that I support, those people who work with me, and I would like to see implemented programs and methods for us to have better feedback, because I think it's important that our employees feel valued and that they feel that their voices are being heard. I want them to be empowered.
All right, so the morale comes from, first, we need people to support us and to work with us. So if I'm telling you I have a kid in my classroom that's constantly disrupting the learning of others every day, and I send this child to you and you send this child back to me in less than 30 seconds, my morale just dropped. The whole classroom morale has just dropped because now learning has stopped, because now as a teacher I can't teach anymore. I'm mad because you sent this other child back into my room, and now no one's going to learn anything today. So if you want to increase the morale, do right and start supporting teachers more.
Right?
How supportive are you of the expansion of online course offerings for students?
Everyone is using technology today, and our school district has implemented e-course and other online providers here in the district. I believe it's called e-course, through online providers, because technology is a way of life, it's a way of the future. Our children are very well versed in technology. Anyone who can use a smartphone can use a computer. So our students are benefiting from that. In fact, it's so good that we have students who are able to recover credits when they're missing credits and they're behind a few credits.
I'm all for it as long as it's a choice and not a mandate.
Yeah, we do a very good job with the e-course program, as Connie pointed out, and I'm in favor of it. And we do capture course credits through it, and I think they take some AP courses too.
Jan, your question. 30 seconds.
Per pupil spending through the MFP would be at least $560 higher today in Louisiana if the state had funded the 2.75% inflation factor. Given that we're here in East Baton Rouge where Bessie is, should EBR school board members take an active role in pushing the state to fund this inflation factor and make up some of the funding that was lost during the years when the state had a freeze?
I believe we have and we do. Many of us visit Bessie, especially Mrs. Freiberg. I don't think she ever misses a Bessie meeting. I'd be surprised if she's ever missed a Bessie meeting. But I also participated with a group of parents who went to Bessie and lobbied on our behalf, especially for our special needs students. So yes, we do participate with Bessie.
I think that we should participate and have more communication with Bessie to work with them to actually fund more money into the school system because it is very much so needed.
I believe if it's more than the $500 some odd dollars that you referred to, because we missed several years, and the compounding of the interest would have been more. But yes, we need to go to Bessie board on a regular basis, and especially to work through the MFP. And of course, the legislators play a part in the MFT too. We need to communicate with them.
Turning off the lights at the schools at 3 o'clock and going home doesn't serve the community very well. Can you speak to the importance of community engagement and collaboration in your respective districts?
This is one of my favorite subjects because I've been talking about this for some while. I have no idea why we have kids that we send home every day, every summer, that we know are behind. We know this in kindergarten, we know this in first grade, we know this in second grade, but yet we continuously send them home over the summer. And we wait till fourth grade, we say, oh, you failed the LEAP test, so now we're going to remediate you. Why do we do that? Why does the school have to shut down? The school is supposed to be the center of the community, yet it is not serving the community.
Our superintendent has done a good job. I have to give him credit on that issue too, because we have a full-time liaison that reaches out, and we also go out and we have, I think we've just hired some new student advocates to go out and meet with the parents and students and to help on all problems in our system. We opened up a brand new service center project, which is just getting started, where we're going to channel all the community complaints to this area.
Our school building level leadership, our principals, assistant principals, and other faculty at the schools do a terrific job of this. Every school in District 8, which is my district, has before and after school programs. Big Buddy is in one of the schools. I think Breck is in 2 of the schools, 1 or 2 of the schools. And we have a school-run before and after care program. I've also noticed that our parents are very, very involved over there, and that they are participating in the evenings and in the mornings. I recently went to Muffins with Moms at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I was so surprised to see about 50 or more mothers and families out there.
Okay, we are on the final response from the candidates. Candidates, you have 90 seconds to tell people why you want to run for school board and what. It's your 90 seconds. You tell them what you want. And I do want to reiterate, every person who is not here had an equal opportunity to be here and have their story heard. We are open, and we have had commitments. I'm sorry they did not fulfill them. I salute the candidates. No, I salute the candidates that had the commitment to show up. Now, Jennifer, tell us why you want to be our next school board member from District 1.
All right, DVR is in a crisis right now, and our system is coming to a fork at the road, and we have to determine which direction that we're going to take. Our students are at risk. Our communities are at risk. We're heading toward a division that no one does not even see, and we must stand together and stop this and keep Baton Rouge together. We're losing teachers. They're running. They're not walking. They're running out of the classroom. There is no line of teachers standing up saying, hey, look, I'll take that job. We can't even replace them as fast enough as they're leaving. That shows you something is wrong. We also have people who are starting these charter schools, and they're promising that they're going to do so much better with our kids, but the reality of it is that they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing with our kids. And so what's happening is that our crime rate is going to continue to increase. Our dropout rate is going to continue to increase. and our prisons will become bigger and bigger unless we're willing today to stand up and fix the problem. We need to work together as a community, as all communities. This is just not about my district, District 1, because when I step outside my door, I'm mingling with all districts. So this is not just about my district. I want to be able, when I get older, to walk out of my house, go at the grocery store, and not being mugged by someone because we failed to educate that student. Because we turn our back on that student.
East Baton Rouge Parish school system has made a lot of gains that we don't read about in the paper. We're now a C district, and we're very close to being a B district. I think it shows from the work of the school boards that come before me and the one that currently is in place, and also hope the future school board will also continue this trend. We do a wonderful job with special ed. We got wonderful magnet programs and gifted and talented programs. We have programs to help students that are behind. So there are many things that we do that are good, but we never hear about it. Unfortunately, I was ill and missed the celebration of the Parkview Elementary Blue Ribbon School. I believe we have 10 Blue Ribbon schools in our district, but you never hear about those. Matter of fact, one year we had 2 Blue Ribbon schools. There were 4 in the entire state. We had 2 celebrations, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. So we have a message for the public that EBR is a good school system and we educate children. And I think that that's important for me to continue to work on the school board because of the success that we've had in the past. Now, one of the other things we got is a big challenge with a new superintendent. And that's going to set the tone for the future of this school district, who we hire to be that superintendent.
I'm Connie Bernard. I'm a lifelong resident of Baton Rouge, mother of a public school student, and foster mother here in Baton Rouge. I've lived in District 8 for about 9 or 10 years. I also have a master's in public administration from LSU. And I'm married 20 years to John Bernard, who's an engineer. And one of the reasons I got into the school board race 4 years ago, I was just a mom in a minivan, and I still am a mom in a minivan, is because my child is in public school, and I saw my husband's company bringing in employees who stayed in residence inn for 2 years and then went back home. So, and I saw that people did not have as much confidence in the school district as I did as a parent, and I wanted more people to experience it. I want to support our community. I want to support our school district. I am the experienced, proven, and qualified candidate in the race. I feel like we've accomplished a lot in the last 4 years. When I became a school board member 4 years ago, we had 3 schools in our district that were rated Ds. I think Mayfair was also an F. Wildwood is now moved from a D to a C+. They're going to make it this year over the top, and they're going to be a B. Magnolia Woods Elementary was a D, then it moved to a C, and this year they just announced a couple of weeks ago that it's now a B. And we're so proud of our students' achievement and the work of our faculty. Mayfair Lab School has been reformulated, and it's now a magnet school, so we have a magnet school in my district, in District 8, and it is now an A. So we've also rebuilt the new Lee High School. We'll cut the ribbon in the fall on that school, and I want to be a continued part of the progress here in District 8. Thank you.
I want to thank this distinguished panel for helping Leaders with Vision conduct a voters interview. I'd like to thank the candidates who have participated, and I'm brought back to a political adage that's been proven time and time again here in Louisiana. If they won't answer you in a candidate forum, why do you think they will answer you when they're elected? Thank you.